Hey everyone, Kyle Lewis here from the Worship Keyboard Tutorial YouTube channel, giving you tips and tricks to help you with your worship keyboard ministry. This is the final video that we're doing in the series of two-handed four-note arpeggios. Now there are other four-note and even five-note arpeggios that we can talk about, and we probably will at another date. But for right now, we're going to close it up so that we can move on to other things. But before we get started, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and that little notification bell so that you can be aware of future videos. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. All right, if you're ready, let's get started. So before we actually get to the lesson, let's talk about a few things. First of all, the fingerings and the hand positions that I'm using are just suggestions. You can certainly use any of them that you feel more comfortable with. I'm just using the ones that I have found that work for me. They may not work for you. So if you find another fingering that works better, by all means, use it. So the second thing is that when I call something an add 2, it could also be considered an add 9 because they're really the same note. I call it the add 2 here because we're going from the root, which is the first, to the third. So we're using that note in between, which is the second. But if you see by this diagram, actually that 9 degree, that ninth, is actually the same note as the second. So the term add 2 and add 9 are interchangeable. When we get into different categories of like major 7s, major 9s, dominant 9s, then we've got a completely different thing to talk about, but we're not going to discuss that in this video. So I've got these categorized in two different fingering groups. There's group 1 and group 2. Now, interestingly enough, there's no oddball like there has been in the first two videos. There's just the group 1 and group 2. So group 1, I'm using the left hand to add that second degree, or the 9, if you want to call it the 9. And then I'm using my right hand to play the minor triad, and that also is going to be in first inversion. And I talked about this in the first video, that we're using the triad in first inversion. That means we're starting with the third degree, going to the fifth, and then the root. So instead of the root being down here, the root is going to be up here. So I'm using my left hand to add that 9, or the second degree. So I've put an alternate fingering here in case you want to start on the root. So we have third finger of left hand on root, and then I'm using 1, 2, and 4 on up here. So you can use either one, but for the purposes of this lesson, I'm going to be using the third finger on the add 9, add 2, and then right hand on the arpeggio. So let's walk through each of these, starting on the A minor, B minor, C sharp minor, D minor, E minor, F sharp minor, and then A flat minor. I'm going to play this down here. So group 2 starts with the root on the left hand here, and then I'm playing the second, or the 9, with the thumb, and then the third, and then the fifth. So I'm using 1, 2, and 4 as my fingering here. If you find a better fingering, you can use it. I just find this more conducive to getting that flow. This works with C minor, E flat minor, F minor, and G minor. And that is all of the arpeggios. Before we get to the application of worship songs, I want to give you an example that you can actually hear in real life. There was a TV show called Agatha Christie's Poirot featuring David Suchet, and that opening theme uses this add 2 arpeggio and actually the chord. So you can call it the add 2 or add 9. And I have this in the PDF so you can actually see that little example. Then it goes into the... But the ending goes to that add 2 minor arpeggio. So that's something you can hear in real life that has that minor 2 arpeggio. So now on to application. There's one song in particular that starts and ends with a minor chord that we can use the arpeggio on. And also it has 2 measures of that same minor chord between verses 1 and 2. And that's the song Hosanna by Hillsong. So it has this little interlude, starts on the C sharp minor, goes to the E, F sharp minor, G sharp minor. Then we get to the verse. I see the King of Glory coming on the clouds with fire. The whole earth shakes, the whole earth shakes, yeah. When you get to that C sharp minor, you could do an arpeggio. So we have the whole earth shakes, the whole earth shakes, yeah. Now I'm going to go down here and play the root. And I talked about this in other videos, is that we're starting the arpeggio on this like root 5, then the 9 or the 2. So let me play that in context, starting from the whole earth shakes. The whole earth shakes, the whole earth shakes, yeah. Now I'm doing a little parallel 6 up here. I've got that written out so you can follow that. So then to end the song, I would play an arpeggio like this. So you have the outro. So your biggest treasure trove of songs that end on a minor chord are actually Christmas songs. There's a whole lot of them that end on a minor chord, like What Child Is This?, One Small Child, Mary Did You Know? And there's a Sovereign Grace song called He Who Is Mighty. So let's take a look at the ending of these songs. So let's start with What Child Is This? We have Joy, joy, for Christ is born, the babe, the Son of Mary. Then in that same key, you have One Small Child. So the last verse of that. One small Savior of life. Oh. Mary Did You Know is in C minor. So that ends with the great I am. So the last song we're going to look at is He Who Is Mighty by Sovereign Grace Ministries. The outro is the same as the intro, and I've actually seen this done in 2 different keys. We're going to do the C sharp minor version. So here's the outro. Well, thanks for watching. I hope these have been helpful for you, and leave me a comment. Let me know how these have been impacting your music ministry. And before you sign off, make sure to check out some of these other videos, including some of the ones that we have done earlier in this series of 2-handed 4-note arpeggios. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.